it's me, Shannon Loveregier. I am live and loving it tonight, coming to you live from up north in up north Michigan, which, for those of you who are not from the Mitten State, is pretty much anything above the midpoint. Like we have the Zilwaukee Bridge, so if we're above the Zilwaukee Bridge, as far as we're concerned, we are up north, which is pretty doggone cool. I'm delighted to be with you tonight to share how we can thrive in change, the changes that we want and the changes that we didn't invite, right? And also, I am delighted to share with you one of our sponsors, Thumb Roast Coffee. If you have not tried Thumb Roast Coffee, you are missing out. It is the best coffee I ever drank, and that's why I'm so delighted that they are one of the sponsors of Sunday Night Live and Thrive and Change. And you can get your Thumb Roast Coffee online, and you get 15% off when you use the discount code THRIVE. I invite you to go to thumbroastcoffee.com and order yourself some of the best coffee you'll ever drink. You will not be sorry, and I can't wait to hear how much you love it. So with that, let's get started. Tonight's hashtag is hashtag Find the Beauty. Our Thrive principle tonight is Find the Beauty. And as we talk about change, sometimes we can feel real bittersweet about it, or sometimes just flat out bitter, right? So if you're here watching tonight, I would love for you to say hi in the comments. Let me know that you're here. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you want to use those emojis, I love the emojis. The emojis are fantastic. Love those, and they help me to know that we're on the same page because I can't see you. You can only see me. So I am delighted that you're here. Let me see. I'm going to, oops, look, you guys, that's my view. Like I said, I'm up north, and that willow tree that you see right there, that willow tree, back in the day when we first got this place, that willow tree used to have a swing on it. And as I sit here, let me see if I can make this flip back around. Here we go. As I sit here and look at that willow tree, there's something in my heart that starts to squeeze a little bit because I can remember my nieces, Kaylee and Cassidy. We called them the twinnies because I couldn't tell them apart until they were adults. But my twin nieces were swinging off of that swing, and my daughter Olivia, and they spent hours and hours and hours swinging on that willow tree and dropping off into the lake. And I spent hours and hours and hours watching them. And it was glorious. Christine, hi. And I'm so glad you're here. Mary, I'm glad you jumped on. Welcome, everybody. Tonight we are talking about Find the Beauty. And we're going to talk about sort of that willow tree and the swing that used to have little kids swinging off of it. And now, it's not my tree, by the way. That willow tree belonged to the neighbors, and they were so kind to let us use the swing. And our neighbors don't have kids swinging on that swing either. In fact, they took the swing down a few years back because nobody used it. Things have changed, and that can feel real bittersweet. So I want to talk about that tonight. As I've been feeling sentimental, feeling reminiscent, but also feeling joyful, and considering in the midst of the changes that have happened in my life with just aging and children getting older and me getting older, those kind of changes that we know we can't control, and how do we deal with those? I was just giving it a lot of thought, and so I wanted to share with you where my brain is at. Where my brain is at about it. So tonight we're talking about hashtag Find the Beauty. Well, my mentor, my friend, John Maxwell, says this in his book, Leadership. He says there is a vast difference between conceding that change is inevitable and believing that change is essential. There is a vast difference between conceding that change is inevitable, and I've said that before, right? Change is inevitable, growth is optional, absolutely true. But saying that change is inevitable is different than believing that change is essential. And that shift is what allows us to truly thrive in change. So let's explore that just a little bit. Talked a little bit about my nieces jumping off of that willow tree. Back when we first got our cottage here up north, it's on a small lake, so it's perfect for young kids. There's no motorboats on this lake. You can kayak and nobody's going to run into you. It's calm, it's peaceful. And so when we started, back right after we got this cottage, my sister said, we should have cousin camp. There were a lot of cousins. I come from a family of 6 siblings. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings. And each one of us siblings has children. And so we just got the whole big family together. And year after year after year, we would gather here at the cottage for 4 days at the end of July. And we would just be together. And it was fantastic. And when we first got started, I had some very simple rules. The first one was that they couldn't watch any TV. So there were no TV, there was no video, there was no electronics. Back then, they were just little and cell phones weren't a thing. So, but that was my rule. When you're up north at cousin camp, we don't watch TV and we don't watch movies, we don't watch videos, because they didn't get to spend a lot of time with their cousins, right? So what a great rule. And it was so easy to enforce. And so that was how everybody expected it to be. When they came up north to cousin camp, they knew they weren't going to be able to watch TV or movies. Don't even ask Aunt Shannon. She'll say no. Hi, Carol. I'm glad you're here. So that was one of the rules. Another one of the rules was that Aunt Shannon always got a bed, because there were limited beds. Lots of floor space, limited beds. But that was another cousin camp rule. Aunt Shannon always gets a bed. And we would do things like play, we'd have field day. So we'd play those games, the balloon toss, the tug of war, the sack race. We had so much fun. And year after year, we would gather together and we would do that. And it was awesome. But change is inevitable, right? And that's how I looked at it. Change is inevitable. Every year I came to cousin camp thinking that my job was to keep it the same. Hear me now. And I just wonder if you've ever seen your role like this, especially with family traditions, that my job is to keep it the same. It's a tradition. So we need to keep the tradition up. And so year after year, my emphasis was on keeping it just like it had been the year before. They only did it once a year. My reasoning was this. It's not like they do this stuff all the time, so they're not going to be bored by it. So you know what? We'll just have our field day, and we'll have our structured meals, and we'll have everything just the way I'd always done it. And I had a team of sisters to help me and sister-in-law, so it wasn't as if I did it by myself. But my focus was that I was going to do everything I could to keep cousin camp from changing. This is the thing. Change is inevitable. And you know those cousins didn't stay little. You know they didn't. Those cousins started growing up. And the older those cousins got, the less, I don't want to say the less fun they had, but the less they looked forward to the water balloon toss, right? The less they looked forward to not being able to watch a movie before they went to bed because Aunt Shannon said no. The more and more they grew and the more they changed, the harder it was for my heart to accept it. I wanted it to be the same. But this is the thing, it's never the same because change is inevitable. This is the big shift that happened for me. Even in the midst of knowing that change is inevitable, I was able to embrace the idea, finally, after much suffering, that change is actually essential. Excuse me, I'm gonna shift here. You guys, my leg fell asleep. Thank you. I had to make the shift from thinking that change is inevitable and I'm going to fight it tooth and nail to thinking change is essential. It's got to happen. It wouldn't be healthy. It would not be healthy for a bunch of 14 and 15 and 16-year-old cousins to come together and have the highlight of their time together be the water balloon toss. You know what the highlight of their time together became? The one who had the driver's license that year, the newest one, spent the whole 4 days carting people up to the Dairy Queen, or carting cousins up to Walmart, or carting cousins up to go to town, to go to the store. Change is essential. It is inevitable. But my viewpoint toward it had to be that it's essential. It's important. It's good. It's good. The seasons of life are good. Change is inevitable. When we look at it that way, when that's the only aspect of change that we see, this is what it locks us into. It locks us into a stance of being reactive. Change is going to happen, nothing I can do about it, and I'm going to react to the change. And a lot of times when we are stuck in always thinking change is inevitable, our reaction time is slow because we don't wanna. How about you? Have you ever found yourself seeing a change coming down the horizon and then digging in and thinking, yep, I know it's going to happen, but I'm going to fight it tooth and nail? It's not helpful. It's not helpful. When we only think of changes being inevitable, we become reactive to it. And now all of those other circumstances are the boss of us. You know how adamant I am about not giving our power away. When we shrug our shoulders or dig in and say, you know what, change is going to happen and there's nothing I can do about it, we have given up our power to be a positive influence, to influence the changes that are coming, or to be a powerful influence on the change itself. Oh, I'm glad you're liking that. Love those emojis. Yeah, when we decide we're not just going to look at changes being inevitable, we stop being reactive. When we say change is essential, we put ourselves into a proactive mode. And I love proaction. Proactive is where we want to be in the midst of change, even when it's change that we wish wasn't happening, even if we wish that those cousins weren't growing up, even if we wish that wasn't happening, we can still acknowledge that it's important, that it's essential. This shift in how we look at change is what makes the difference between us shriveling and dying and being sad in the midst of it, or shifting gears and being able to thrive and put down some new roots, right, in a new situation. So, in the midst of great change, we can either say it's inevitable, can't do anything about it, and resign ourselves to it, like I did for many years, trying to make teenagers throw water balloons and play tug of war and do all the little kid stuff. Or we can say change is essential and start being proactive about adjusting ourselves because we know it's happening. And by us adjusting ourselves, we acknowledge that change and we start impacting the results of that change in our life. Shawan, I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you and thank you. And Carol says, especially in this season of our life. Yes, Carol and I are in a similar season in life where some of our old responsibilities and jobs are going away and we're leaning into some new ones, stepping into some new opportunities as our children are grown and starting to go off and do grown-up things, right? Many of you might be in that boat. Some of you have young kids, and the season of life that you're in is that you're sending them off to school. No matter where we're at, if we look at change as something that we have to fight and we have to tolerate, we are being reactive. And when we look at change as something that we can not only lean into, but understand that it is essential. It is essential for things to change, because without change, there is no growth. Without change, there is no growth. So we have to get good at leaning into change, accepting change, but also saying, I'm going to be proactive in the midst of it. I am not just going to wait for whatever happens and then cry about it. I am going to lean into what's happening and do something that's going to make it better. When I finally hit the wall, with Cousin Camp, the whole weekend, I just felt like it was so unsatisfying. None of it was what I wanted because I was stuck in the past. And with good conversation with Ken, who's always great at helping me get perspective, we talked through some things, and the following Cousin Camp, we made some big changes. We scheduled a canoeing, tubing field trip. So instead of sticking around here in our calm little lake, we went out on a river and went tubing down the river. I quit fighting about the kids wanting to drive every 15 minutes up to the local Dairy Queen. Let it be. They put a couple of kids in the car with them. They're driving safely. They're bonding. There was good happening. Really important, essential good. Once I was willing to accept it and quit fighting it and receive it. And I was thinking about that as I sat around here, because here at the cottage it was quiet. It was just my husband and me and the dog. A lot different than Cousin Camp in the past. But I got to thinking, one of my sisters and my aunt had suggested that we do another Cousin Camp, and this time it would be round 2. Because now it's our grandkids, not our kids. It's our grandkids, not our kids. It's our nieces and nephews. It's a younger generation who would love to come up and hang out on a calm little lake and have a kayak adventure to Beaver Island, which is a tiny little chunk of land out there. It comes around again. I'm excited for that, but I'll know this time not to get too attached, and also to not fight the important changes that are going to come behind it. Let's see what you guys have to say. Let's see. Carol says, you've helped us find solutions and move forward. Carol, I am so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that. Because if we can't find solutions together to move forward, we are squandering our ability to have a positive impact on the world. So, and I'm all about that. So I'm so glad to hear that you found the things that we talk about here on Sunday Night Live and the things I talk about. I'm so glad that you found them to be valuable. Let's see. Shawan says this, lean into it, but it's scary. Oh, Shawan, isn't that the truth? Leaning into the change, knowing that it's essential, it has to happen, is scary. Because we don't know what the future holds. But I'll tell you what's more scary, getting stuck in what we know is already gone. That's not coming back. That is gone. Don't look back. You're not going that way, right? Yes, it is scary, but it's awesome. Jerry, hi, I'm glad you're here. Let's see what else we got. Missy says this, finding gratitude in the season I'm in is one of my biggest challenges. Yeah. Knowing the next season will be just as beautiful is also essential. Find the beauty. Yeah. Missy, I love that perspective on it. Missing what's behind, that's okay. That's okay. It was beautiful and we loved it. But trusting that the new season is going to be just as beautiful for different reasons is really powerful. And that truly is find the beauty, right? Hashtag find the beauty. We can trust that the life we're living every day is, if we are doing the right thing, and by that I mean keeping an attitude that allows us to grow and thrive, that things do get better every day. The next season is going to be great, right? All right, let's see this. Oh, Mary Bell Edwards says, I am slowly making small changes. Thank you. Mary, small changes are powerful. Sometimes the smallest changes in our lives have the biggest impact. And we just don't know. We don't know. They feel small at the time, but they make such a big impact in our attitude, in our day-to-day, right? In the friends that we have, in our outlook, and our attitudes. Mary, some of the changes I know that you've made in your life have seemed small, but were actually big and required you to shift, have a big shift in your thinking and what you allowed yourself to do and consider. So good for you. Let's see. Missy says this. I'm so grateful for the 4 pillars you teach on Sunday Night Live and Live Stream Leadership. Talk about impact. Missy, the 4 pillars, bring the honor, respect the now, trust the process, and find the beauty. Those really are the keystones to being able to change and change well and be resilient. And it's an honor to share them, and I am delighted to hear that they serve you well. And we talk about them more on live stream leadership in a different way. How we lead ourselves and others well is the emphasis in live stream leadership, but those principles still apply. That's the beauty of principles. And so I'm gonna wind up with this thought. So change is inevitable. When we look at it that way, and that's where we stop, we're reactive to it, we're resigned to it, and we are allowing the changes to mold us. We give away our power. When we say change is essential, it has to happen. It makes us proactive because we know change has to happen for us to grow. If change isn't happening, we're not growing. When we can embrace that, lean into that, understand that, now we're in a proactive role. We're not just keeping our power, but we're using our power to change what comes next. So that's amazing. And then, Missy, what you said was such a great segue into this. The principles. Because in the midst of change, there are some things that do not change. There are some things that do not change. And we have to decide what that is for ourselves. Because when we know what isn't going to change for us, our core values, those rocks that we have placed, that everything in our life flows around, those things that we know we value, when we have set our compass according to those things, then everything else that's changing, we've got a way to navigate because we know what doesn't change. We've got a North Star, if you will. They used to use the North Star to navigate on the ocean. On the ocean. They didn't know where they were going, and they would find the North Star and go, we're gonna follow that, right? So, in the midst of change that is inevitable, but is also, for those of us who are committed to growth, is essential, has to happen. There are some things that don't change. This shirt I have on, I don't know if you can see, it has this word treasure. And this treasure is my mother's handwriting. She had written this in a card to one of my nieces, and we all got a copy of it. And my niece Brooke actually used the Cricut to convert that to an iron-on and put this on my shirt, treasure. I miss my mom. I miss my mom here. She loved more than anything to come to cousin camp and sit and watch her family. Her family. She loved to watch her family do what they do. My mother did not care if they were driving up to the Dairy Queen and back 50 times. She didn't care that 3 of the sisters spent half of their time at Walmart because they loved it. And they would come back. All my mom to watch her family be together, and she didn't care how. She just was glad they were. It was the thing that never changed. She allowed them to change, to grow up, She just loved watching the process. That was one of her rocks that her life revolved around. And when I think about that treasure, and you guys, I'm probably gonna cry, so be ready. When we think about the treasures in our lives, those are the things that don't change. I want the treasures in my life to be the things that I set my compass by. All the changes that happen, I need to understand that there are some things that will always be there. I will always love my family. They will always love me. I will always put God first in my life because He is the rock that never changes. So as we embrace change, as we thrive in change, I'm live and loving it. I am. But I can be live and loving it because in the midst of great change, I know there are things that don't. My love for God, my love for my family, my commitment to have a positive impact on the world, on people, those all remain. They're the compass that those other changes get filtered through. All right, I've got lots of comments. Let's see what we got here. Hi, Jim. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, guys. You can tell I'm on my iPhone, so I have to do this so I can see. You guys haven't seen my nostrils in a long time. Oh, thank you, Carol. I am having a good weekend. And Shawan says amen. Amen. We keep those things that are important priorities in our life. Those are the things that don't change. And the rest of the changes, don't just tolerate them, lean into them, and understand that you can have an impact on them so that you can grow and other people can grow. Don't be like me and getting frustrated year after year because I didn't want to change what cousin camp looked like. When I finally looked out and realized we've got a bunch of adults standing out there, change was essential. And once I realized that, I could enjoy it. I could lean into it. I could see the beauty in it. And also, it made me feel happier looking back on the changes that had happened. I didn't resent it as much. Carol says this, world changer. Oh, world changer. If I ever were to get a tattoo, and I will never get one, I think world changer might be right up there. Maybe I'll get that on a shirt, right? You guys are fantastic. I am so glad that you were here. I'm going to wrap it up. What have you got to say? Anything that you'd like to drop in, I would love to see it in the comments. This is what I would like you to do this week. Maybe today. Get yourself a glass of iced tea or a cup of hot tea, something, relax a little bit and think about not just the changes that are ahead of you that are inevitable, but what about the changes that are essential? The things that you know, these have to happen. This is going to be great because I've decided that this change is important and necessary. You have the ability to do that. And when you do, you change everything. With that, thank you for joining us. Share this with a friend who you know is going through some change and maybe just needs a little bit of help to shift to #FindTheBeauty. God bless you all. Take care. I will talk to you soon. Bye.